Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
The Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns May 14th through 17th with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Bring Me the Horizon, and Shinedown. Plus, Pierce the Veil, Good Charlotte, The Offspring, Sublime, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Marilyn Manson, and so many more. Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 14th to 17th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at sonictemplefestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And we were having a little bit of fun before jumping on live here, but I'm excited for the conversation I'm about to have with Navy veteran Laura Mazucca. What's going on, Laura?
Just here in Cleveland, waiting for it to decide what season it wants to be.
Exactly. Wait a couple hours, it seems to change, right?
Right, fair. Yeah.
I know. I was out like cleaning out my deck on Saturday, tank top, shorts, taking all the covers off the furniture out there, hosing it down, getting ready to just start chilling out there. And then literally the next day, it's like
the tundra
freezing again. Yeah. Yeah. But I know we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer.
Right.
You know? But usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So do you remember when you were little Laura, what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh my gosh. That's going way back. Well, I guess I'm that person now. I just wanted to be on stages and like dancing and speaking and doing things. And that's pretty much what's happened. So.
Nice. And when was it that, the call to serve your country came in?
I believe, I think this is, not to speak for everybody, but I believe it's most people's story of, you're in your hometown. I didn't have a lot of opportunities that looked promising ahead of me. My parents were divorced when I was super young, got moved around quite a bit and kind of just felt, like I didn't belong anywhere. And just started relying a lot on a lot of drinking and leaning into things that were not going to be conducive for a successful trajectory of my future. I didn't really have money for college. So my whole mom's side of the family was military. They were Marines. My father had done one enlistment in the Navy. But that was basically it. I knew that if I would have stayed here in my hometown, I would end up like my mom and that whole side of her family, which unfortunately were addicts. So, and this was at the age of 21 when I decided to go to the recruiter. I had already had like 6 years of drinking and under my belt. So I started very young and it was not a good sight. So
yeah. You're getting it in before it became legal, right?
Yeah. Just get it done early, just start early, finish early.
Yeah. I started early myself. And then, of course, then the Navy had a whole nother layer to it for me. And then, I wish I would have quit earlier, but I got 17 years now. So, I finally figured it out eventually, but right. After a Navy career of enabling, it seems like, but when was it like that when you went and saw the recruiter and, you signed up and you shipped off? I mean, it sounded like, and we'll get more into it. There was a lot of chaos where you were growing up at, but what was the transition from like the home chaos to the like Navy boot camp chaos like?
Well, and also keep in mind, like I was not only very unhealthy just from my lifestyle. I was eating fast food, drinking a case of beer, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. It was not a good sight. I had additional like close to 45 pounds than what I have on my frame right now. So I remember, and I was kind of prepared for boot camp. I mean, as much as I could be, but keep in mind, we were one of the last camps out of Florida. So this was 94 when I went in. So different times. So I remember getting there and like, they don't let you sleep for like 3 days. And you're just like, I'm like, what the hell is happening to my life? And I remember the first morning going out for PT and like the sun's not even up yet. And remember thinking to myself, like, this is when I'm coming home from the bar. Like, what did I just do? Just blew up my life. But oddly enough, I was literally the only one legal age to drink out of the 82 girls in my boot camp. It was crazy. So a little bit late to the game, but I got there and outlasted most of them. So we're good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Now, what would you say is some of like the oddest things you experienced during your time in?
The oddest? As far as just in boot camp or my entire enlistment, my 5 years?
Your entire enlistment. What were some of like the oddest things that for you to get used to compared to, the civilian lifestyle?
For me, and I think it's because I moved, like I was just kind of like all over the place as a kid. My parents were divorced when I was super young and my mom was not stable. And she was the one who had custody of us because, it was the 70s and that's what they do. So to have that, I mean, which was the appeal for me as well, was like, I subconsciously knew like I needed someone to like set me straight. I had a chip on my shoulder. You know what I mean? I needed structure. I needed discipline. And I actually really thrived in that. You know what I mean? Like, because I felt like if I could keep my external, like my external being in the uniform, you know what I mean? 4.0, nobody could realize like how fucked up I was inside. So, but I believe like, for me, the instant orders to go overseas, most of the females out of my camp got, because at the time, like I said, this is, mid 90s, all of us got overseas billets for the most part. They were just trying to like position women to just have, some sort of bodies, whether it was 10% or whatever, you know what I mean? So that was like the biggest eye opener. Was knowing that I was going to step into a really heavily dominated, male dominated environment, but then I'm getting out of the country. You know what I'm saying? Now it's a whole other layer of like, oh shit. Like I just wanted to go to Norfolk so I could like still visit my family. You know what I mean? Like it was just crazy. Like your perception. I'm like, where the fuck? Oh, Spain? I don't even know where that is. Like, that's how, like, you're from Cleveland. Nobody ever leaves Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? So that was like the first thing that was super odd, was that we all got billets overseas. Some girls got Italy, etc. Most of the stuff I feel like I was kind of prepared for because, like I said, like my uncles were in the Marines and they kind of gave me the deal, like it's just a mental game, just suck it up. And keep in mind too, I was extremely shy at this juncture of my life because of the abuse and stuff that I had early on as a kid. So I was very apprehensive of being in the world. So, but just that, and I don't know if it's odd or whatnot, but it was a lot of, obviously there was no sexual harassment training, even just checking in at my first duty station. There was a lot of sexist remarks the minute I, was standing in front of these Master Chiefs, and there's nothing I could say. There's just nothing you can say. Like, what are you going to say back to these people? First of all, I'm terrified. I'm in a different country. I don't know this environment, even if I was just in the States. And then you have like your Master Chief basically saying, oh, we can't send Mazucca down to the firehouse to do TAD for 90 days. Look at her. You know what I mean? Like, and you're just standing there like, are you serious right now? And then to get the same sort of like rhetoric as I just continue to check into my department, my division, I was like, this is my life now, So for females, it's obviously a whole different layer of like, I don't know, trauma and different things that you've got to just be constantly aware of, and that was it from the get-go.
Yeah. I did the whole like Norfolk and Virginia Beach because same thing. I didn't want to be too far away from home. And that was like, when I look back at it now, after I've had a few years sober, I almost wish I would have done it the opposite way, and got to take advantage and see more of the world. It was too concerned about coming back home on the long weekends and partying with my friends than, to actually look at a career and stuff. But during your time in too, I mean, where would you say, even though you dealt with that kind of like a reception overseas, was there any place that was like your favorite place that you served at with the best memories?
Well, don't get me wrong. Like it was shore duty straight away out of the gate in Spain. And so being treated, especially because I was a female, they ended up making me the commander's like right-hand person up in the office. And then I became like the department trainer for like Microsoft had just rolled out, and I became very proficient at it. And they were just like, let Mazucca be the whole department division training for air ops or whatever. But Rota in and of itself, I will say I got a little bit spoiled because your backyard is literally the beach. Rota is very small. It's a Spanish owned, it was a Spanish naval base. So like we just kind of shared it. But yeah, it was stunning. So I was really fortunate, on the flip side of that, to be overseas and like have that complete culture shock, literally. It's not your language. You're just like, you're really stripped of like all of your like beliefs and values get like shoved right in front of you. And like, you start questioning, like, look at how these people's lifestyles are. You're seeing way more family dynamic over there. Everyone's at the beach. When people get married, they live with their parents. You know what I mean? So when you're seeing like these complete variances, and then you're also seeing that their kids aren't, using drugs or alcohol, and you don't see teenage pregnancy anywhere. You just don't see any of this, so then you start to go like, maybe it's not the best country that I just came from. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just experiencing and really being able to be immersed in such a different culture, where they just have a completely, I don't know, they just really love life, and then you start to really question, like, why isn't our government putting half of these things into play in our playbook? Why does all of Europe get like a month off, if not more? You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. Why do we have a week off? So yeah, I was fortunate. So road to Spain was definitely near and dear to my heart. So for sure.
And then where was like your least favorite place?
Well, I only got through 2 duty stations. Well, I didn't even quite get through the last one because I had medical discharge, but I ended up on the Carl Vinson aircraft carrier outside of Bremerton, Washington. We were based at. So that was a whole different ball game. I think I was the 82nd female to step foot on that ship. So,
Wow.
You're out to sea with, and at that time, that was 97. The tail end of almost going into 98, that, you still had a lot of the old timers that were still, towards the tail end of their career, that treated you and told you to your face, like you belong at home in the kitchen. And then you had the men that were very excited to see you. You know what I mean? So it was like, if you didn't come on board that ship and stand your ground, which unfortunately, a lot of these younger girls, 17, 18 years old, never been away from home, they just totally got taken advantage of. Unfortunately, a lot of admin seps, pregnant, flown off the ship, all the things. So, it was just a very interesting dynamic. Like like I said, if you didn't come in there and kind of stand your ground and these guys could sense it, you were, it was not going to be pleasant for anybody.
Yeah. I remember around that time frame, like I was in an assault craft unit. Well, first, I was with the F-14 squadron. We were on the Theodore Roosevelt, but, I don't remember seeing any women in our squadron around 92, through 94. And then I come to an assault craft unit and mostly did some reserve time here in Cleveland. And that's when women started getting integrated in, to our units and stuff. And I remember how, like you said, it was like the same type of thing, either the old timers are like, man, what are they doing here? And the younger guys were just like, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, it was just, in hindsight, and this is just kind of, and this is my personal experience and my standpoint, and it's not to be sexist, but it's just like, I feel like those environments were not prepared for us. I feel like it was a lot of
Mhm.
the government just kind of saving face and saying like, oh, you want equality? Okay, well, let's hurry up and look like we're doing what we need to do so that it looks like we're giving women a chance in all of these different arenas, versus, oh, wow, let's actually teach people how to maybe cohabitate first,
Yeah.
get some sexual harassment training, understand that you can't just say certain things around women. You know what I mean? You can't talk to them that way if you don't use your rank to, kind of create this dominance over them. So all of that groundwork not being laid. And this is pretty much for all the environments. I'm talking like the standard issued roles, like police, firefighting, all of those things. These are environments that were just not prepared. They were just not prepared. And I just think the government was just trying to appease everybody when women said they wanted to be equal. That was misinterpreted, and it was open to a lot of misinterpretation. They're like, oh, you want to be equal? Here we go. It was like, we're not equal, and we're not designed that way. You can't put us in combat. Men just are instinctually wanting to be protective of us. Do you know what I mean? So like, you can't expect them to do their job if they're worried about, especially if you're like their sister. Like, the men on my ship ended up like being like my brothers, and they were very protective of me. Now I can only imagine how that gets exasperated in a combat situation. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just how the DNA just goes. So I just feel like, what are you going to have, all female ships or whatever it may be? But there was just not any groundwork that was laid for how to have those environments be safe, and be efficient for anybody. So, yeah.
The government definitely is always seems like we're, I don't know how many decades behind everyone else. It feels like a lot of times. Like, I remember close to the end of my career, and I was able to get 20 years in, but it was like GMTs every weekend, and then you had to do the annual sexual harassment it's like they were finally catching up with stuff they should have laid out, before the integration, I feel.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah. And just on my social media platforms, I try to have like these conversations with these kids that are in now. So that especially like the transition or the lack of transition programming, that gets you from just your separation, just a normal separation out of the military into back in civilian world, in society. I think that's the biggest, that's why I'm such an advocate for things now, because it's just so shocking and people don't understand it. The average civilian doesn't understand it. And these conversations that I'm having with people, it's just like, oh my God, we never knew. We just thought you guys were really taken care of. I'm like, the VA loves to make it look like we're taken care of. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not. There's no one that says, okay, make sure when you get home, check in with this office. This is the person. These are all of your benefits that you're entitled to. Ain't nobody telling you that. No one's telling you that. And that's all this separation. I'm like, why are there 7 different counselors? There's someone who talks about your home loan. There's this other person who's got your educational. There's another person over here. Like, make it like, eliminate these 5 roles, 6 roles, and have one person be the person. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that challenging. Like,
exactly. And then what is something you feel like you always carry with you from your time of service?
Oh my gosh. I will say that it definitely, I don't know, that level of like structure and discipline, it gets ingrained in who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing that can take that away. And the average person will never understand that just kind of, it's not fearlessness or whatever it may be. We signed our name on a dotted line, not knowing like where we're living, who we're going to be living with, where the fuck we're going. You know what I'm saying? But like, for me, I have still continued to kind of live like that. I can literally be like, all right, I'm sick of living in Ohio. I'm going to go to Florida. And within like 4 days, I will navigate. I'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will have a job lined up. I'm very resourceful. And I think that that's a huge skill set that is completely atrophied in most people's civilians' brains. Like, you're just super resourceful. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you don't have that fear of just doing something like that anyway. So, hence why I ended up in the fitness industry. You know what I mean? Like, I could take that and really just make a career out of it. As well, being in that lane, in that arena. So, yeah,
And then what's like one of the funniest stories you feel you're able to share from your time in?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if we should talk about things that included alcohol.
I mean, if the statute of limitations have passed.
Oh gosh, no. Oh my God, no. That's I just think socially there's plenty of amusing stories. You know what I'm saying? But like, just looking back in hindsight, things that were, obviously considered sexual harassment. Like I almost have to laugh at those things now because it's like, they got away with it. And then if they would even have said half of those things in today's world, like I could see these, I don't know what the term to even call these wonderful young children that are going in now that are offended by everything. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just, I think
it's hard to narrow down with the alcohol involved, right?
Well, I'm just saying you form such a diverse, like a bond with people, especially when you're overseas as well. These are people that are coming from the same kind of demographics as I was. Some were from Milwaukee, some was from this. So like, I think it's just really interesting that you end up across the globe with people that are, you know what I mean, are very similar to you. And these people become your family and now you're in a foreign country. So then that's a whole other layer of like, really like leaning on each other, and then, I was closer with those people than I was with that I've ever been with anyone in my life. Any other friendships coming afterwards either. So
yeah,
it was like one particular, but Rhoda was a 3-year good time. Rhoda was a 3-year, I got a little spoiled there. Not to say that, having to put up with, it just became my norm, like listening, having those kind of comments though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like any abusive relationship. You just get used to how you're spoken to or how you're treated. So then like, by the time I got to my ship, like I was just unfortunately used to being talked to like that because it progressively got worse on the ship.
I know. And like you were saying too, like everybody, today's culture and, how everybody seems to get so offended so easily with things. I look back at, it's like we all wore the same uniform. It didn't matter what race, sex, whatever you were from. And I think it got better closer to the end of my career than, what you were just sharing early on when they were first doing it. But there's like, I remember me and a couple of the guys that I'm still good friends with today, and we keep in touch and get together every once in a while. And it was like, it was around the height of the Chappelle show. The Dave Chappelle show was out. We would always be watching that religiously. And then we'd be dropping those lines on each other. And it's like, and if we still say that, if we're out in public today, if we get together and we go out in public today and we drop that stuff on each other, we get the joke, but people around us heads will explode. And all of a sudden, hate speech or something. It's like, it's wild where we're at today.
It's so wild. Like, and I'm really like fascinated by what the culture must be like. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously most of those old timers have moved on and retired. So there's, you know what I mean? The next batch of people that would have been in there would have been like yourself, had you'd stayed in another, 15 years, you would still have that history of like knowing what life was like prior to having all of these like, training, everything getting in your face about it. So like I said before, like I've had conversations with, these younger kids that are getting out and making sure I'm like, make sure you get your medical record, make sure anything that's, look at it, make sure everything's documented. I don't care if you stubbed your frigging toe and like whatever, went to medical, it better be on a page in there. I don't give a shit. Like you do not trust them with anything. You take it home with you. And some of them had said, I believe this was an Army kid. He was like 32 and he was getting out. And he said that it depends on your command. Cause I asked him about like, listen, your transition is going to be what's the hardest. And I'm really curious about like, what kind of tools are they giving you? Because I didn't even know how to negotiate for a job. Like NASA didn't even think that I knew all the shit that I knew in Microsoft. They thought I was lying on my resume because I accepted such a low ball offer. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah.
are they teaching you like how your job translates in the civilian world? Like how your skill set, like how long is the training? You know what I mean? Like how long is your exit orientation, if you will? And he said it's pretty extensive if the higher ups check off and let you actually do it.
Wow.
So that's so then we're still having this problem, you know, like I said, no one's when you get out, no one's telling you this is where you go. And then you get a medical step like me now, like the one trajectory, the one decision you thought for myself that I only had to worry about for the rest of my life. This was going to be, okay, I'm doing 20 and being done, was gone. Now I'm back to square one. You're telling me I'm damaged goods. You're telling me I have to be on all these meds that like make me feel like a zombie. You know what I mean? So now it's like your whole life gets swept out from underneath you and you return back to home and you're worse than what you were before you even went in. And so then you like just the adaptability or the lack of from just an average person getting out of the military and trying to reintegrate into a society they never belonged to begin with, which is why we fucking go in, you know what I mean? And now you're adding like, then you took all my friends away. And now I even like, I remember like thinking to myself, like, oh my God, what am I going to wear? You know what I mean? Like even the smallest decisions like that.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, all of these parts of your brain as an individual thinker have completely atrophied because you haven't had to fucking make those decisions. They haven't had, what am I eating? Where am I sleeping? Like,
Yeah.
Just like, oh my God, what the fuck do people do with all their free time? Like, this is crazy. Like, I still get up at 5 a.m. Like, what's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, the transition and the VA is not doing a great job and they're still handing out, you know, meds and whatever. And like, no one's explaining what a medical discharge is. No, I had no idea what the fuck that meant. All in my eyes, all I knew is that was the end of my career and I was getting $300 a month for the rest of my life. Like, make it make sense. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, no one told me I could fight for an increase. No one told me anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, okay, go home. Here's, you know, $1,800. Have a nice day. Like, what the fuck? Make sure.
Yeah. When I got off my first, I have two DD-214s, you know, and it's like my first active duty stint. You know, when I got out, it was exactly like you said. I had no idea. The only thing they told me was to go to the VA for a dental checkup, and that was it. And that was like 94 or something. And, you know, the VA, I think the Cleveland VA has definitely come a long way from where it was back then, but still could use some work. But I didn't know anything about applying for any other kind of benefits and stuff like that, you know?
Right.
And it wasn't, thankfully I transitioned into the reserves and was able to make a career out of the reserves. And my chief, before I left on my last deployment, exactly word for word what you said, because he worked for the Veteran Service Commission here in Cuyahoga County in his civilian job. So he was just like, Bailey, I don't care if you stub your toe over there, get it documented, bring me back the hard copies. You know, and I did a lot more than stub my toe over there and came back with, and they were like, oh no, it'll be in the system. We don't need to print it out. I'm like, no, print it out. And I printed it out. I brought him a nice little, you know, almost little phone book home and we threw it against the wall and see what stuck. And thankfully a few things stuck. And then I started learning about what benefits I could have been getting, you know, all those years ago when I got off on my first DD-214,
right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. No one's telling you, hey, you're going to have a home loan. You can use a VA home loan. It's no money down. Like, no one's telling you that. Oh, you can use it for rental properties. No one's telling you that. You can have an investment. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like 23 years of me being so frustrated with this system and having to be resourceful of my own accord, that I know all the inner workings of how to get shit done. But like, it shouldn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't have to be that way. That's why I just started talking about it. Like last year, I just went on TikTok. I was terrified to talk on social media. I'm like, who's going to believe me? Who's going to give a shit? Like, you know, these visibility wounds, like all the trauma, the MST, like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to care? But it's like, oh my God, like people give a shit. You know what I mean? Like there's other veterans who are just like, oh my God, I didn't know I was even entitled to that. I go, well, now you GI Bill, you can pass it to your kids. Like, why aren't they telling them? I didn't know that. Exactly. Why don't you know these things? Where do you look? Like your Peacock streaming subscription, you can get it for $4. Like That's the kind of shit like I will be out finding like anything that I can find. I just screen record and like upload and I like blast it. And then I have like these like little spoof commentaries of like, oh, hey, VA, I have a nice little list because you apparently are falling short on a few things here. Can you come to the front so we can have a conversation? You know, like, but there's so many veterans that are just like shocked, and their families are shocked. And I'm like, this is a whole thing of no communication, miscommunication. Don't tell me you can't find these people. Don't tell me. Like I'm sitting in Cuyahoga County. What a shit show. What a shit show. You want to know how many times I'm tried knocking on that door to get into their board meetings, then they cancel them a day before, and there's no agenda meeting minutes documented anywhere. What are you talking about? And who's deciding these things? You know what I mean? Like, have you been boots on the ground? Do you really understand what us veterans here and just in locally are enduring? Why are you having an event in the Browns Stadium that you didn't advertise? You didn't even put it on Facebook of all places. And then you wonder why there's only 50 people that showed up. How the fuck are veterans getting to downtown and spending $20 to park? Like, you know what I mean? Like small shit like this totally makes like, where's the logic? Like people are supposed to be like logistically like efficient people. And it's the biggest shit show, like at the local level, So
Yeah. So just imagine what kind of fraud and waste is taking place, you know, all over. What would you say is one of your greatest hopes for our country that you've been willing to give your life for?
Oh gosh. The hopes of like how I feel. How I feel low-key almost embarrassed sometimes to say like I even served for this country. I mean, honestly, like for a long time, I was just like, people would thank me. I'm like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that we have gotten so far. The pendulum has swung so far in the opposite direction where now, like I mentioned before, everyone's offended by everything. Our own constitutional Pledge of Allegiance, everything is gone. When we can't even like verbalize things that were part of our founding fathers' culture and the dynamics here because other people have come here and they're getting offended. And I'm not saying this to be racist or whatever, but when I go to Spain and tell them, I don't want you saying that in the school system anymore because I'm offended. You came here.
Yeah.
I don't want to celebrate that holiday. Stop calling it Christmas. But you want the holiday pay. I worked at NASA. We were not allowed to have a Christmas party. We had to call it a winter party because most of those people were there on a green card and they were offended. I'm like, but you're not offended to take the holiday pay. So my point to that, and again, I'm not here to be an asshole. I'm not saying like, I'm not being racist. I'm saying that the scale has tipped so far to accommodate everyone that there's no lines on the road and everyone's driving however the F they want to. And then we have to walk on eggshells when I've signed 5 years of my life away and was willing to do another 20 for the very freedoms to do these things. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
my hopes is that we find some, you know, the pendulum comes back to some sort of a neutral space and people stop being so fucking, I'm so far left and so far right. It's two sides of the same coin. Like stop creating such a divide. Like just stop. I don't think that we've ever been so divided, you know, as a nation. And then that just creating more hatred and more angst and more like everyone just like, I just stop. Like, do you see any other country getting crazy? I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like there's just a divide. And like I said, you know, that's what I hope for. Yes. And honestly, not to also be like too crazy, but the variance between an 18-year-old in Europe who's had to serve 2 years mandatory in the military versus our 18-year-olds over here. I'm just saying. Night and day. I'm just saying the trajectory of those children's lives are completely different. The respect, the lack of crime, the lack of all the things. Okay. These kids I'm sorry, but there's no life skills because there's no parenting going on. So when I was in Spain and these kids immediately 18, they're more than happy to do 2 years. And this also mitigates all the other issues that we may have with, you know, our military not having the quota that it has. I'm not saying, enforce things and do stuff, but the variants, maybe you give them, I don't know, give them something, give them an initiative to do it initially. But it would be, these are just things that are sitting in other countries and how that they're ran. Deferred college payments become an excess tax. You know what I mean? You don't actually hit the ground running at the age of 23 with $100,000 in debt here. You know what I'm saying? Why are we setting our kids up for like this mass amount of debt and all this shit? You know what I mean? Like they're not set up for success. They're set up to stay in the system and keep feeding it. You know what I mean? With 1 week vacation and hoping that they'll eventually get out of debt. So my hopes is we, also peek around and look at how Europe also has a better quality of life. People have 30 days holiday. It's true. And they do have free medical. It's true. Like I said, their kids, your college is deferred for 5 years. You come back from traveling and doing whatever you're doing, it becomes an excess tax and you're paid for the rest of your life. There's no college loans. Like, I don't understand how we're not getting the playbooks and going, wow, this would really be beneficial for our, our citizens it's like the system is like just not beneficial for people to have like a great quality of life here. And I hate to say that, but it's true. So
yeah, for sure. So many people never get outside of their bubble. Like you mentioned earlier, so many people don't get out of Cleveland and they think this is just life, but when you've had a chance to see other cultures and be other places, you start to realize, maybe all the propaganda we've been fed since we were kids, is just that. And, maybe a lot of this division that's happening right now is by design, because while we're distracted and fighting amongst each other, it seems like a lot of other people are getting rich,
Absolutely. Like I don't know. And there's a lot of veterans that I'm close with that have created expat communities all over the globe because it's just a better quality of life. Their PTSD, my PTSD, all the things. Like, so now there's pockets. There's an amazing new space down in the Dominican Republic in Punta Cana. Veterans can go down there for a whole week free. It's like a mini resort. You can get whatever kind of health care that you are usually, like if you have an appointment with a psychiatrist, whatever, they have a whole medical wing. And like, they're just doing amazing work. Like this is it's not on your dime at all. Like, so they've got a contract and it's all the things. So like, there's all of these things are popping up now because we've had boots on the ground, literally get in these different countries and like, then get on social media and blast like, hey, you don't have to live there. Like your disability check, you could be living like this versus this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How much further your money goes. People are so terrified to think like, oh my God, I'll lose all my benefits. It's not the case. You know what I mean?
No.
So just way better quality of life and way less expense. And you know,
I've been looking, trust me.
Right.
Now you mentioned PTSD as well. Like, something you feel we can do to break the stigma of PTSD and mental health?
I don't really even know that it's a stigma anymore, even just for what it was even 5 years ago. And I think what's it wasn't even a label when I got out, and they later changed my diagnosis. So I initially get out for one thing, and then all of a sudden I'm going through my therapy all these years later and and I'm like, oh, what? Oh, now I have PTSD. Like the term just like came out of nowhere for me anyway. And then I get even more infuriated and I'm like, so all the medications you gave me for 7 years of over medicating me were not for that. It was for this, you know what I mean? Like, so PTSD is like been played so much. And I hate to say it, but like when civilians even use that term, I get so infuriated.
Yeah.
Some girl had the audacity to be like, oh, well, I have PTSD too. And so I don't understand what your problem is. Like, we can go out to the blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm like, I can't go to concerts. Like, you don't understand. My life is very small. I can't be in an elevator with people. Like, I can't be at a concert. You know what I mean? There's certain environments I'm never going to go, and I have not gone in. I can't even watch the fucking news. Like, I went 9 years without a television. So don't come at me with your PTSD from your school, whatever, because whatever, you know. I'm not saying anyone's is bigger than whatever, but the term in and of itself, I don't think it has the stigma that it once held, you know. And again, I don't also feel that, I think that it's just lost. It's just lost any sort of kind of, it's lost its true essence of the meaning. I think it was such a, for me anyway, like it was so driven just for primarily military people. And now everyone has it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From what? Because what happened? You got bullied at school for a grade, and then your parents took you out. Like, so I don't know that there's so much a stigma about it anymore, but I will say it's sad to me that anyone that has been discharged, like myself, because of some sort of emotional inability to regulate, or any of these other things, like I said, your world gets very small. And case in point, you go to fill out something like an application. They ask if you're prior service. They asked, are you disabled? Do you want to check that box? And then they dig a little deeper. So then as you're like filling this out, you're wondering like, is it going to behoove me to tick this box when it says, is it a mental, you know, or emotional, you know, does it fall under that jurisdiction? Or am I going to be able to be like in the door because you need to show that you're actually giving me an opportunity? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that whole shit, that's like borderline unregulated, like HIPAA shit. I feel like do you really need to dig that deep? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a veteran. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
You know?
It feels like a HIPAA violation too, you know, for employers to be asking stuff like that, you know?
1,000%. And I literally just went back to a corporate space for like 2 years, to try to be an adult again, to see if I could. And I absolutely couldn't. I ended up, forget it. I lasted a year and a half. But my first week there, they have a staff meeting, and it's Veterans Day. And I have not been introduced to all these people. Right. And nor do I want anyone knowing because I don't know how some people feel about the military. Now you just put a target on me because they're like, oh, Laura, stand up. Laura's actually new here and she's a veteran. I was like, oh, okay, this is not cool. This is why there's no HR in this particular organization. And it is clear that there's no HR here because that's like telling someone, oh, stand up if you're divorced, or stand up if you're, you know what I mean? Like they think they're doing something good for me. And I was like, maybe
they're checking a box to make themselves feel good. Like, look, we hire veterans.
Yeah, you know? We hire veterans and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but again, that's a personal piece of information that you don't know how some people feel about us, because there's not everyone that's like, oh God, thank you. You know what I mean? Not everyone wants to thank a veteran. Let's just be clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone who is anti-military because they don't understand what it is. They just assume that like we're pro whatever that they are not. And then you got a target. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wore one in college too. You know, once they found out I was going for a particular field that I thought I would be able to make a difference and help my fellow veterans and other people in recovery as well. But then it became like, you know, oh, well, you're this, so you must feel like this. And, you know, you have to vote this way if you're going to do this. And it's just like, no, I served so everybody could have a right to vote however they wanted, whether I agree with what they're saying or not. You know, it's just like everybody has a voice, you know, and now you're trying to take mine, you know, because, you know, you found out I'm a veteran. It was just, you know, yeah, I've quite a few experiences where it's just like, that's why I like doing this, you know, because it's like we get to talk about it. We get to raise some awareness about things. And, you know, it'd be nice if I was getting paid, you know, like Joe Rogan pay to do a podcast here, but I'm not. This is more a labor of love, and this is for my mental health. This helps me, you know, get comfortable talking to people again that I just met, you know, instead of just like nodding my head and whimpering as I walk by a stranger, you know?
Right. And I think these are conversations that, unless, you know, and this is my like angst right now, is just locally, you know, the VFW halls, they are at least brick and mortar places that it's a no-brainer. Everybody knows who frequents those places and what they're for. You know what I mean? At least they understand what kind of community is beyond those doors and who's welcome there. Do you need to be from the war? No, but you know that veterans are in that space. My problem with these spaces is because these kids are lost when they get out. Why aren't we rebranding them? Why aren't we at least walking in there and trying to change? Hey, can I have a men's group? Hey, can I just have a women's group? Why are we all sitting at the fucking bar drinking a depressant to make us more depressed about not fitting in the civilian world? And then we just sit around and talk about the same 5 years of memories, and we stay in Groundhog Day, and no one's propelling forward. We're just crying about the same shit. I literally told this to one of the kids. He's like, I'm going to get out soon and blah, blah, blah. And I go, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want something and it's not in your community, you create it. Point blank, period. I see too many veterans sitting on their hands crying about shit. You have the velocity and the grit. You could to sign your life away. You have the velocity and the grit and a purpose that was not your only purpose in life. You can still take that grit and create something, like use it for fuel to do good for people that, you know, like yourself, are suffering. You know what I'm saying? You can flip the switch. And I think that's it's the most like missing mark of everything. We get out, we feel like that was it. We can't really top what we just did. So fuck it. Let's just drink the rest of our lives away and bitch about it. And then bitch about being tossed to the side and bitch about only getting a 10% discount at fucking Lowe's. I don't know. You know what I mean? Stop crying about it and get your ass on social media. Like do something, you know, like I have to have these conversations with my uncle. He's an old jarhead. He's like, oh, the fuck, blah, blah. Stop crying about it. You've been crying about it since 1989. Like you want to do something. And by the grace of God, a lot of these veterans have created a lot of amazing things. The VA was not getting off their ass to create a database where we could just plug all of our stuff in and then it spits out all the benefits we are possibly entitled to. Bet your sweet ass there was a couple of guys that created a freaking app that did the very thing, and now it exists. So, you know, like I get we're all frustrated, but you know, there's one thing to make awareness about where the lack of support is. And then there's another thing to be like, hey, I can take some ownership here. Just like myself, I'm starting to be more local, boots on the ground, no pun intended, versus just getting on social media and like, you know, hey, you know, making spoof content about like all the shortcomings of the VA. Yeah. I got to start here, you know, I got to like, so go to the VFW. Hey, can we have a fucking craft? I'd like something different. Can I run a boot camp in the morning? Can I do a Saturday old school boot camp? Get people to like, oh, wow, we can come here and have something different that doesn't involve alcohol, you know, like gives us our velocity back, gives us a different way of being with each other than like sitting around crying and just regurgitating our memories. Like,
yeah, I'm a life member of the VFW. I got, you know, hooked up with the Strongsville VFW when I got out, and they paid like for half your lifetime membership. And then they're just like, hey, how, you know, I showed up for the Army Navy game because I know, hey, all right, I'm going to see some people. I get to watch the game, and there's going to be a lot of food there, and I like to eat, you know. So I go up there, and then the commander's just like, hey, how come we don't see you up here often? I'm like, well, I'm sober. I don't drink, you know. I mean, unless you guys are doing events like this, what am I going to do? You know, what do you want me to do? Come up and play video games or gamble? Now you got some slot machines in here now. Woo. All right. But what are we doing? Like you said, what are we doing to get the younger generation? Because like it or not, those are our voices that go to DC, you know? And if these organizations die out, you know, the future veterans aren't going to have any kind of voices. So we need to get the younger blood in there. And I just connected with some younger veterans. I become friends with another female from the Navy, and she's part of this group called Irreverent Warriors. You know, they go on like hikes and stuff together. A lot of the veterans get together, go on these hikes. and they hold some of their meetings at like the American Legion in Fairview or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, we've been putting our heads together. Like, what can we do to get the younger vet? Because the younger guys come out, and it's the other stuff too. It's just like, well, if we're gonna go to a bar, do I want to look at Joe behind the bar serving me a drink who's also a veteran? Or, I mean, give me something to entice me to come in and order drinks or whatever too, and it's just, I don't know, there's so much that they can do to upgrade. They need to upgrade to get the Good Old Boy Network needs to, they can still do their thing on one end of the bar, but let's use the other side of the facility for, like you said, maybe we could get together and do like PT mornings or something like that for the younger guys that want to stay in shape and have fellowship or do something, So
and that's
definitely some changes for sure need to be made.
For sure. And like, I even dig around on all, like I started looking for, like I said, Cuyahoga County, whatever. And I started digging on all of their old archived agendas, and literally I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you voting on? And then like their Facebook book, oh, we're closing at 11 o'clock today. I'm like, what are you people doing? Because it looks like you're not doing a hell of a lot, basically. And then I start poking around at these different VFWs. And so I did get on the phone with a man named Jim Riley, and like he coordinates, or he hosts like some of these coffee meet and greets. Like there was one this past Saturday at the Fairview VFW. There's a couple of local organizations, nonprofits that have just like done their own thing, Northeast Ohio Patriot Group and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, they've had to create a nonprofit because we're not doing anything at the local level that's getting funding. And so it's just like, what is wrong? Like, why are you not using social media to reach our veterans? Like, it's not that fucking complicated. Do you know what I'm saying? Like all these veteran groups on Facebook, it's where all the old timers are. If they're anywhere, they're there. How do I know? Because I'm in them. You've got all the Cleveland people, like Cuyahoga, all these veterans here. That's the easiest way to have communication. And yet it behooves people. And it was like, nobody knows about this. Are you serious? Like, but yeah, the whole VFW thing, like, why are they not rebranding? Or like, you just go to all of their my point to that was like all of these VFW websites, the lack of functionality. And I've even sent emails to like, hey, email us and blah, blah, blah. Crickets, radio silence. No one's answering me. No one's answering the phone. Like, no one's calling me back. Like, well, okay, are they just left to like, is anyone in there ever? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's a shame because like I said, they're brick and mortar places that are known that if for nothing else, a veteran knows like they can go there and they will find a fellow veteran. Yeah. They have taken their time, but that's, the community's there.
Now, I wanted to talk too about, what you're currently doing as well. We mentioned, physical fitness and some of the things that you've experienced through the VA. I too have I've probably gotten more of my own healing journey outside of the VA with some of these veteran founded nonprofits, or like holistic medicine, alternative medicine. And just like, I got up, went to the gym this morning. I feel good after I get a workout in, it's good for my mental health, not just my physical health. Let's talk about kind of your journey to where you're at today and what you've learned that can help other veterans.
For me, like I said, when I got out into medical, I literally I was a shell of a human being. I was over medicated. At one point I was on lithium. What the fuck that was about. And my mom was just like, where is my daughter? Like, I was not able to participate in life at all. I was nothing. So I ended up, going online, researching because the internet just came out. And I just started researching all the meds that these wonderful people had me on, and finding that the combination of all the wonderful meds that they've had me on was actually exacerbating the very condition that I was going to them for. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I haven't slept like a human being since 1994 without a nightmare. It still happens today. So my point to that is, at that juncture, my mom was taking an herbalist course. And anyway, I will give you the condensed version of this. And this is not medical advice, it's my own personal experience. I started weaning myself off these things and started implementing things to rebuild my serotonin, 5-HTP, all the precursors that are there to allow you to have your own serotonin replenishment and regulate your moods. I went on this massive protocol. I started working out. I hired a trainer, and I felt like, oh my God, I have my velocity back. You know what I mean? Like, I have bandwidth. I could think, I can participate. Not saying I wasn't obviously still having nightmares every night and dealing with the emotional trauma that had happened to me for the past, 5 years. But I was at least able to participate in life and got my power back. Do you know what I mean? When I talk about the grit that we have as people that have signed our names on the dotted line, we're a certain breed. Do you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying. Not everyone could even fathom to do what we've done. So you still have that in your DNA. And so that kind of like reignited that for me. It gave me my power back. And then I got into, I saw a woman having like women's boot camp in the morning. And she was a local woman outdoors, 5:30 in the morning. I was like, oh, let's go. Keep in mind, I'm super shy. I was still super shy. What was I, like 28 at this time? I started doing her women's boot camp. She was like, oh, what are you even talking about? Like after the second month or something, she's like, I want you to be one of my trainers. I want you to be one of my coaches. I want you to lead. I was like, absolutely no, you're fucking crazy. No, I will be back here in my camo doing what I do, but I'm not doing that. Oh no. She pushed me to get my personal training license. So had I not had that woman come and push me, she's like, you already know all this. What are you doing? So again, when you have a new purpose, and I think this is for most veterans, the reason they're so depressed is like nothing tops that purpose we just had. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what could possibly top us? We signed our life away. We willingly like gave up our fucking individualism. What's ever going to top that purpose? Nothing, maybe, but you need to find another one. You can't just sit around and mope about shit. So my point to all of this was like me working out, me getting in the weight room when women were not in the weight room, me like doing this stuff, me having people, especially people of my, other females that were entrepreneurial and like successful and doing the thing, seeing my potential again, when I felt like that was the end of the road, which is why I'm so hellbent on like making sure these younger veterans have someone in their face saying, this is not the end for you. That was a chapter. Do you know what I'm saying? Your time in the military is just a chapter. It doesn't have to be like you get out and you're nothing. So anyway, that spawned my whole sort of like love for fitness and all the things. And then I ended up having a career with NASA, but I was still teaching fitness. I would teach boot camp before I even got to work, my big girl job. You know what I mean? Like, so I would teach 5 o'clock boot camp and then roll into NASA. And then I started teaching Zumba and yoga. And then I started getting into like raw food and fasting. And so like meditation. And as all these things were stacking to give me back more velocity in my life, I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Like and this became my career. Like I lost my dad in 2006. And that was my wake up call to be like, I don't need to be giving my life to the government anymore. I need to, the best way I can honor him is to do what I love to do. And I love teaching and I love seeing people get healthy. And I love the feeling that I was given by someone pushing me to do something. And so that's what so I, goodbye NASA, goodbye house, donated all my business clothes, peace out. And vowed to myself I would never sell my soul again for the sake of a paycheck, and certainly not to the United States government. So here we are 20 some odd years later. And that's what I've been doing. As I have found tools that like have helped me, they just have become part of my business. Holistic coaching, or I'm dancing, or I'm teaching, or whatever I'm doing. It's just what I do. I ended up getting my alternative medicine degree. I've got my bachelor's. I used my Voc rehab, which I didn't even know I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had no idea I had another 4-year degree outside of the GI Bill, which I never used, the GI Bill. So I was like, oh, well, shit, I guess that ship has sailed. Oh, no, Miss Mazucca, you have Voc rehabilitation. Who knew?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Now, you'd mentioned like how shy you were and stuff, like, and then you know, that one personal trainer kind of encouraged you to do personal training. But what for you on your journey, what has helped you to be more of an advocate and an outgoing and speaking in front of people?
I would say it really happened. It's been most recent, honestly. Like I don't have a problem with like classes and stuff like that, but for me to like share my life on social media, and everyone's like, "Oh, you have this incredible story." Da, da, da. I was like, "Nope, nope, nope, not going on social media, not doing it." There's only a select handful of people that know about my whole ass life. I'm not putting it on blast. So I think last year, after that horrendous corporate stint for a few years, I got out of that, and I was like, I'm 53 years old. Like, let's hang up the visibility wound bullshit, Mazucca. Let's get your ass on social media. Let's start being an advocate. Because I was just like, I had to get out of my own way. Like, there's veterans that need this information. There's veterans that and I just had to put the camera on and be like I said, the very first video I did was like a spoof to the VA, and I had my glasses on and my little notebook. And I was just like, "Oh, hey, VA, these are some areas of improvement. We're doing a little performance evaluation with you. Yeah, if you want to talk about this, we would love that." So, to have the reception of people, whether they were, thank you for posting, wives or spouses, thank you for posting, like I would create content. Like, we don't feel like you're treating us like a different version of who you think we are when we come home. We're never going to be that person again. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? And so now we get home from being in the military and we already feel lost. And then you have all these people that used to be super close to you thinking you're a different version of yourself. And so like, you just always feel like displaced. Like you never feel like you're going to get understood. So my point to that is creating content that we think is just like no big deal. And then making a post about it and then having like a whole influx of people going, "Oh my God, I had no idea as a spouse that there was so much angst behind, him going silent for 5 days," or like what that means. You know what I mean? Like, thank you for being the voice for like a lot of veterans, that just, people are sitting on the sidelines as their family members, not knowing that all this is going on because we've got too much pride to talk about it, you know? So,
Now we've gone a little over the hour, but I wanted to ask you about Mind to Muscle, when that came together for you, and, just talk about the inspiration for the name and what that is for the listeners out there.
I believe because for me, like, as I was finding things, initially it was fitness, that like gave me my power back. And when I got into yoga and different things, meditation and holistic stuff, fasting, like you have to really, I don't care how good you look, you're not going to out PT anything. Okay. The military will teach you PT. They're not teaching you health. You know what I'm saying? Like, so Mind to Muscle was created way back then. Gosh, 2007, it hit me. It was like, everything has to be, it's the whole shebang, dude. You're not just going to work out and feel like you're taking your shit back. Like, you got to sit your ass down. You got to meditate. You got to journal. You got to like get it out of your body. You got to get it out of your psyche. You're walking around with the same 60,000 thoughts that you've had for how many years, and you haven't taken time out to maybe sit and go, "Oh, do I really need this in the memory bank anymore? Does this file serving me? No. What the hell is that memory even doing there? It's not even the same one." You know what I mean? Like, you got to clean. It's like defragging your computer. Yeah. You're not spending any time to defrag the computer, and then you wonder why all the viruses are in there.
Yeah.
Just going to the gym. Yeah. It makes you feel better. It gets you out of your depression because you're physically moving your body and having endorphins and a little bit of a chemical boost, but you still have all the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, my biggest hang up was, for the longest time, and I'm finally, fixing that part of it, was just like, I could go train and work my ass off with a trainer at the gym, but if I come home in my kitchen, if I'm still feeding myself crap, for that dopamine rush or whatever, like I was just beginning of this year, I was up to like 2 energy drinks a day, and that shit was going to kill me. And then I talked to a friend of mine who's big into fasting, and I did a water fast, and the goal was to go 72 hours. And in the past, I've never made it past like 48, but this guy coached me with the right electrolytes and the stuff, the right things in the water to help it be tolerable. And I ended up going like 95 hours on it before I decided to break it. And then no desire to have energy drinks. That sugar craving that I was battling before has been gone. It's like, yeah, we ate a little bit of crap yesterday on Easter, but I have no like I'm not craving going and having more chocolate eggs or anything like that. I've been eating more plant-based, more Mediterranean-like now. But the one thing in my journey still that I struggle with is probably like meditation, and I'm in recovery, and they talk about prayer and meditation in the steps that I work, but I can say a quick prayer, but it's just like that pausing and slowing down my brain. It's like, I always think I'm doing it wrong,
Everybody, I think because the big misconception is that you're just going to sit there and not have any thoughts. And like when people just remove that, you want to talk about a stigma, like that's not meditation. Meditation is just creating more space in between the thoughts that are so rampant. That's really all it is. And then the more you sit, one day you sit for 5 minutes, the next day you sit for 7, the next day you sit. And then just like your fasting where you thought, oh, hell, I'm never going to make it through. The more that you do it, even just by 2 minutes or 3 minutes on the daily, your mind starts to go, oh, this is where I belong. And then you will be like, I'm sitting for 30 minutes. And you start to crave the space that you start to create in between the thoughts. And you get this, like, there could be just a fraction of a moment where there's nothing happening, but it feels like you just like got the deepest restorative sleep of your life. And so the longer you do it, so I tell people, like, start with a guided meditation. Just get your little freaking earbud things on until that becomes your internal dialogue for you to like chill out and dial down the brain. That's absolutely okay. Just do guided meditations. And then, make sure you stop listening to certain kind of, like, I don't listen to certain kinds of music because music will definitely elicit an emotion. And some of them are all your old favorites, will loop you back to the past. You know what I mean? It keeps you stuck. It keeps your mind stuck back there as well. And so you kind of want to break out of all of those old patterns. So you stop listening to all the things that you've listened to, you know what I mean? Like, you just take baby steps. And when you do this, it's shocking how fast your body's like, oh my God, I've been craving this. Thank you. You know what I mean? So guided meditation is great. Yoga is still a form of meditation. I mean, the reason the postures were created was so people could physically be exhausted enough to sit their asses down and be calm enough to meditate. So that yoga saved my life. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be crazy doing anything crazy. It's just the postures all correlate to releasing something in your nervous system, which is all housed in your spine. And the minute you do a little twist or a little bit of this, you're realigning everything in your nervous system. That's another big misconception. Yoga, I got to do this. I got to be flexible. It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with it. It's teaching you how to breathe and release trauma in your body. So if anything, hopefully that someone watches this and they try meditating or for you or yourself.
Yeah, I definitely want to add yoga into my routine as well to maintain flexibility and stuff. Like you said, we're not getting any younger, and that's such a key thing is staying flexible. Now, if there any women that are out there listening to this that are considering, joining the military, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Oh man. Well, if anything, let the Air Force be your first stop. No, I'm kidding. I would say, and honestly, because today's day and age may be a little bit easier to navigate or not as abrasive, we'll say, to navigate as those of us from the 1900s had to endure. Really look at what you're going to gain from being in that environment. Understand all the benefits before you even walk in there, understand what you're entitled to when you get, and this is pretty much for anybody. And I'll just add a little bit extra for the females, but you can really, because there are no jobs in today's day and age. No one's doing 20 years in one place anymore and getting a pension. That's just not happening. There are no such things. Like, they're few and far between. But I will say, especially for women, know your strong points. Know that you're going to always be outnumbered, and have very strong boundaries, and you have to learn how to talk like a man, because you will never be heard unless you take away the fluff, be unemotional, and like, otherwise you're not going to be heard. You have to get used to not being treated, or not being in your feminine energy, which can be a slippery slope when you go to get out of the military. And I've had to learn the hard way. Not every female has this abrasive, direct communication style. So when you go to get out and you're very direct, people are going to think you might be a bitch. You know, I had to really like dial it down. I mean, luckily I was in heavily dominated industries like NASA, fitness. I've been able to get away with those things. Well, not when I went to go run a whole ass yoga studio and I had like 7 different yoga instructors that I had to talk to that were a variety of different ages. Some were very senior. That kind of communication does not work for everybody. So that is another like big thing for females that I will say. You have to unlearn all of those communication skills unless you're going to go into another heavily male dominated industry when you get out, if you get out. And even with your family, even with having a relationship, there are men that are not going to like this abrasive tone that you have to have when you have that uniform on. It will, your personality will 1,000% change. And if it doesn't, you're going to get taken advantage of in the military. Like, that's just it.
Well, Laura, man, this has been a great conversation. I want to get ready and wrap up with you here. But I want to ask you a couple of questions I normally ask my guests that I have on here. What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
What class? Oh, it's not even on the curriculum. Just, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even on the curriculum. Like, because these kids have like just no basic life skills. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing in a textbook that's going to prepare children. We see how well it's worked. All the curriculum in the schools is, I'm sorry, but it's shit. Like, the colleges in and of themselves now have realized that these kids can't even do finances. They don't even know how to do their own laundry, let alone anything else. Like, you're trying to cram their brains full of stuff that they're never going to most likely use again. I'm sorry, but like history and all the stuff. Okay. Yeah, it has its place, but like that needs a whole rebrand. So yeah, just self-sufficiency needs to be a whole new curriculum.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I made that commentary about like seeing the variance of an 18-year-old who has to go and do 2 years in the military, and they don't leave. The kids in Spain did not leave Spain. They just had to at least do 2 years in his service. So it just felt like maybe a long boot camp or whatever it may be, but it's a structured life. You're not going home, you know. But again, there you go. Here's the variance. This is also mitigating what they're turning out to be. Now they have the velocity to be husbands and spouses or wives, you know what I mean, or whatever it may be, and they're, you know, contributing citizens. So
yeah.
And
then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Ooh, wow. Oh, geez. Well, good, bad, or indifferent. My mother, just for wanting to be the polar opposite of all the things she was. Definitely my dad. Like I said, his death was a pivotal moment for me to really be like, okay, the best way I can honor his passing is to go live based on my passions, my talents, and knowing that what I've done at the end of the day has rewarded someone in some aspect of their life, you know, like to help them have a better life in some way, health perspective or whatnot. And I don't know the third person. My grandfather, and he passed when I was quite young, but he was definitely a very like strong presence for me. So that would be, that's it.
Sure. And then any message you have for our military brothers and sisters currently serving overseas?
God, that's heavy. You know, I don't, you know, this is a hard one because there's a lot of things I don't agree with and why we are boots on the ground and fighting other people's battles. You know what I mean? So there's some things that, man, I just wish we didn't have to send our people to. That's, you know, our home base people to. These are not our battles. You know what I mean? And I know it's a pride thing and you feel like you're serving and doing the right thing because someone above you has given those orders. But at the end of the day, I understand you're also government property because you signed your name on that line, but these are not our battles. Do you know what I'm saying? There's someone's pockets are getting lined for the battle. You know what I mean? There's always some sort of like ulterior motive. That's what I've 1,000% have learned. So wars are not always what they're presented that we should be doing and why we are getting involved.
No, not at all. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, I appreciate the time talking with you. It's a great conversation. For any people out there that want to, like you mentioned the TikToks quite a few times, like any veterans or people out there that want to follow you and see what else you have information out there, where would you send them?
For sure. My TikTok's probably the one that I kind of have the most resources on and that you can reach me at. It's The Healing Barracks. So that's kind of where I kind of land most of my stuff. I don't think I'm super active on Instagram anymore, but by all means, people that, especially if they're local here in Cuyahoga or whatever, or you're getting ready to get out or whatever it may be. I don't care if you're the mom of someone or the dad of someone, like, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily enlisted or military, like I said before, that need to know the information. That's just not been accessible for people. And it's sad because now the family's entitled to a lot of things as well. Like I mentioned before, you can pass your GI Bill on to your kids and that's not getting blasted to anybody.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I appreciate it, Bill. It's been a good time.
Yeah. Thank you. One last favor before I let you go too. Usually when I have veterans on, I ask for a promo ID for the show and I have them introduce themselves at the last rank they held. So you mind doing a promo ID? Just introduce yourselves at the last rank and say, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Okay, let's go. Hey, it is Petty Officer 3rd Class Mazucca, and today you are listening to today's Boondoggle podcast, where I had a lovely chat with Bill.
Awesome. Laura, thank you so much. It was great talking with you. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right! Listen up! Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Barracks, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your